the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers joining you guys after an incredible weekend. Just some monumental things that went down over the last week that we have to recap here on this show. And of course, I am talking about my co-host, Connor Rogers, getting engaged over the weekend. Look at this man. Look at the glow on his face. Everybody out there, I want everybody to go to his social media right now, pause the podcast.
What a guy.
And go say congratulations to him. Connor, my man, congratulations to you and Christian, man. I saw the news over the weekend, right before we recorded this podcast, actually. So, I had to start the show with the biggest news of the week.
Well, you know how much I appreciate you and all your love, and you and Alyssa are just such good friends to us. And it's awesome, man. It's really awesome. It was a fun weekend. Made it home in time for the mock draft. I mean, listen, the grind doesn't stop, okay? The engagement party put on pause. But no, thank you so much, man. And thank you to everybody that's already said congrats to us. And it's a really exciting time. This is second engagement on this pod.
It is.
The Stock Exchange pod is just good luck for all great things in life right now, and we continue to keep that rolling.
Quarterbacks and love life. So, like, Aaron Rodgers has to become, a Jet at some point because Tom Brady became a Buccaneer while the podcast was going on, or at least he came out of retirement, so he came back. So, look, quarterbacks and love life, we got you here on this show. But as we were kind of joking about earlier, what we're doing here is we're doing, yes, folks, another mock draft. And we said last week,
they won't stop.
We were joking about it. We normally don't do this many mock drafts in a row, but y'all know what time of year it is. One, it's mock draft frenzy time anyways, but two, this is the first Monday after NFL free agency. So there's players that are still going to get signed here and there, but a lot of the big splashes, a lot of teams addressing their needs happened last week during the tampering period and the early parts of the new league year. So with that, we have a lot of changes for what these teams could potentially be doing in the first round, second round, third round, all of that. We just have a first rounder for you today. We promise we're going to get to a beast of an episode that's going to include more than one round very, very soon. But Connor, man, last week, I know you were on Rogers Watch like all week because you cover the Jets specifically for your other jobs that you do, man. But around the league, I thought as a whole, a lot of teams did a very nice job addressing their biggest needs on the roster to give them that best player available approach as we're going to go through here in this mock draft.
They really did. And that's what's going to help this mock draft. Full transparency, the reason we kind of are sticking to round one today is because with each pick, there needs to be a little bit of free agency recap tied to it. It's going to take some time for the picks. And then we plan on doing a beast of maybe a 3-rounder at some point in the near future. But for this one, like you said, so many teams were active, and while it got the reputation as a market that lacks star power, and I fully agree with that, there was a lot of depth on this market, and I think it was really cool to see some of the teams at the top of the draft that are either rebuilding or some of them are retooling really be aggressive in this free agent market to open the door of what they could do, not only in the top of round one, but of course at the top of day two as well.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of great conversations I think you and I are going to have over the next hour or so as we run through this first round mock draft. So, buddy, do you want to pick for the odds or evens? As we often do, plan the podcast on the podcast. We did not even talk about the paramount part of how we're going to do this. It's just, folks, we're just versatile. We're versatile draft analysts here. So maybe I'll use that poor planning as an excuse to say something like that. But you want to go odds or evens? What do you think?
I think you went odds last time.
Yeah, I did.
So I'll take the odds this time, and we'll kind of keep that back and forth. It'll maybe change a few things here or there, although free agency changes so much, which puts me on the clock at number one with Carolina. I know last week, Trev, you had them taking CJ Stroud, which is obviously the current favorite situation. When you look at Carolina here, they did a lot of really nice things in free agency. When you're a roster that needs help on offense, you had to trade DJ Moore to get up to this pick. Number one, I like getting Andy Dalton in that quarterback room. It didn't cost you much. Now you have a pros pro at quarterback coach in McCown. You have a pros pro in Andy Dalton over there. I mean, in that quarterback room as well, that if anything goes wrong with the rookie or the rookie needs a breather, that's somebody that can be a kind of mentor guy and own that role. And then listen, while this free agent class lacked a lot of different skill talent overall, I still like the Panthers going out and getting a pass catcher like Hayden Hurst, going out and getting a new running back in Miles Sanders that had a really, really good year for Philadelphia. They got Shai Tuttle to beef up the defensive line. They got Von Bell to help on the back end of, listen, this is already a really, really good defense. And I think a defense that doesn't get enough credit for how much talent it has. So now you go into the draft at number 1. And in this situation, I'm going to take Bryce Young. And I think it's a lot closer right now than many realize between Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. And I think the Panthers are still going through this process, right? They have coaches and scouts, not as much scouts, but, probably coaches that are really diving into the tape and diving into the character. And I know CJ Stroud has fans in that building. I know Bryce Young has fans in that building as well. So I think we kind of try to paint every single picture. And I think this makes the rest of the draft a lot more fascinating if it happens. And I think the odds are a little off right now. I think Stroud deserves to be the favorite, but I don't think he deserves to be the favorite by as big of a margin as I've seen on a lot of the betting boards. I think this thing's pretty close. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think they haven't made a decision yet. And in this draft today, I'm going to go with Bryce Young.
Yeah, look, you go through free agency to fill your holes, to allow yourself to pick best player available at whatever spot that you're choosing, right? You want to use free agency to really address the needs where your roster is weakest. And I felt like, especially with the Panthers going out and getting Andy Dalton, it's a 2-year, $11 million deal, right? So it's probably, it's not starter money, but Andy Dalton also realizes where he is at this point in his career. Honestly, it feels like Bryce Young is the quarterback that I've heard the least amount about since Carolina traded up to number 1 overall.
Bizarre.
But that's not necessarily to say he's totally off the table for them, right? That could also just be the fact that we've talked about Bryce Young for so long.
Yep.
And with I've heard that there are people within the organization that really like Will Levis. Of course, bringing. We know the CJ Stroud talk that we had last week when we went through the mock draft exercise. When you sign a guy like Andy Dalton, a experienced veteran, guess what? That allows you the freedom to draft an Anthony Richardson if you want, knowing that you don't have to play him right away. So truly, what the Carolina Panthers did allows them to have a lot of freedom, not just at number 1 overall, but remember, they gave up a big haul to get to 1, but they still have a 2nd-round pick. They still have a 3rd-round pick. So I'm excited to dig into those later rounds when we kind of get to that point. But Bryce Young off the board, I don't see a problem in this. Certainly, he's my QB1. He's the guy who I have the most faith in this class. He's just got so much talent. He's been the best player in college football over the last couple of years. That brings the Houston Texans up to number 2 overall. Texans earlier today, because we're recording this on Sunday, it was announced that they traded Brandon Cooks, but it was also announced that they retained Laramie Tunsil. They gave Laramie Tunsil a contract extension, so he's sticking around. So there were rumors of, the Chiefs calling to potentially go get Laramie Tunsil, which I felt like would have been crazy. Not for the Chiefs. It would have been a great move for the Chiefs. Would have been
trading
crazy
him.
For the Texans. But, when you look at the rest of the Texans roster, it's just one of the weaker rosters in the NFL. And you can't look anywhere else other than quarterback here. You take Bryce Young at number 1. Normally I go with Bryce Young here with the Houston Texans, but I'll go CJ Stroud. I'll just flip him here. I'll go CJ Stroud. I won't get too spicy with it. Although like you've heard from a lot of people say, Anthony Richardson, it feels like is the ultimate wild card in this class. I think that just any of the teams in the top 5 could fall in love with him, but I'll go with Stroud at number 2. Because there's nothing that the Texans could have done outside of going to get Lamar Jackson that would have made this anything other than a quarterback pick. So you going Young at 1 means I'm going Stroud at 2.
All right, so 3 Arizona's on the clock, and this was a team that, man, they have some work to do. I mean, sure, they re-signed Will Hernandez. They signed Matt Prater, Kaiser White, Kelvin Beachum. So they have some veterans on the offensive line, but they have a lot of spots to fill in their trenches on both sides of the ball. And when you look at Arizona right now, I think ultimately, obviously they're still in on Kyler Murray, even if he's not ready to start the season. I don't think they're going to stay at 3 and shock the world and take a quarterback. Nobody's really talking about that. I think, Trevor, my question to you, since you are picking for the Raiders, I'm picking for the Raiders at 7.
You have the power, my friend.
But I want to ask you this. We've talked about the Raiders moving up a lot. What about the Colts solidifying picking the 3rd quarterback off the board?
Sure.
What if they come to a conclusion that they're like, hey, we really like Anthony Richardson a lot better than Will Levis, or the other way around? We really like Will Levis better than Anthony Richardson. What do you think the cost is here for the Colts to just flip with Arizona? That way Arizona who shouldn't really charge a ton here because they're still staying in front of then Seattle and the Lions, which I think is very important in this scenario for them. What do you think that cost looks like to just flip one spot and ultimately get to pick the first non-quarterback off the board?
Let's draft trade chart. So let's look this up. Indy's sitting at 1,800. Arizona's sitting at 2,200. This is a 400-point difference. Indy's second round pick at number 35, which is the fourth pick in the second round. It's worth 550 points is what it says on the chart. I think it's going to cost 35.
You do. Wow. That's a lot. I don't know if Chris Ballard does that.
I don't know if he does it either. And that's why I'm not so sure they move up because Chris Ballard's a guy who I think is really, he holds strong to the value of the draft picks, and he does not like to overpay for stuff. So, but I got to think that of the teams that might be calling to move up, now maybe the market's not as hot as we thought it might be, right? Because you brought up the Raiders. You brought up the Raiders at number 7. It kind of feels like the Raiders aren't in on moving up as much as they were before. We heard Adam Schefter say that after they signed Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe they're not as big of a player to drive the price up for the Colts to move from 4 to 3. But as of this moment, as we sit here right now, I would tell you that it's going to cost a second rounder, whether it's this year's second rounder or like a 4th, 5th round pick this year and a second rounder next year. I think it's going to cost some sort of second rounder for on the flip.
I think so too. So for this scenario, we're going to have Arizona just stay pat. The Colts aren't interested in doing the pick flip. The Raiders, like you said, Trevor, they gave Jimmy guaranteed money through almost 2 years of the deal. Or I should say significant guaranteed money through about 2 years of the deal. We're going to stand pat here. The wild cards are Seattle and Detroit. When you look at the Goff and Geno contracts, those teams could explore taking on a Richardson or a Levis and let them sit for a year. But we're going to have Arizona say, you know what? Let's not overthink this. We're not comfortable moving too far out because, God, we need good players on this front, and end up taking Will Anderson at 3 because they don't like the offers that they get.
Okay, so you think they're going to stay and take Will Anderson? All right.
I think they're going to move if they can. But in this scenario, without the Colts going up, with the Raiders sticking at 7 after signing Jimmy G, I don't think this puzzle or this picture is painted as clear as we once had. That we're just going to have them stay pat for the sake of the consistency of this mock draft.
Arizona is a team that just needs to get a lot better. I mean, Arizona could pick basically every single one of their draft choices along the defensive line. And I'd be like, yeah, all right, that makes sense. I mean, you lose Zach Allen, you lose J.J. Watt. They lost Byron Murphy as well. Like,
they
who's
weren't
left
good to
on that
begin
defense,
with.
right?
Yeah.
You're looking at your big cornerstones on defense, the guys that you have to brag about, depending on what you think of Marco Wilson. Okay, you maybe got one starting corner on the outside, but then it's basically just like the linebackers that you overdrafted over the last couple of years. And the regime that drafted him isn't even there. So I think this new regime is going to want to make a statement. I don't know if any trade is going to necessarily. I think they're going to definitely explore moving back, but I don't think them staying at 3 and taking Will Anderson, that's definitely not off the table. So I actually kind of like the fact that you did that. The more that I looked at the Cardinals roster after free agency, it feels like that's the way they kind of go. So that brings up the Colts at number 4. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, flip a coin at this point.
Really?
I don't know who they're going to end up taking. I feel as though the higher ceiling of Anthony Richardson and his athletic ability with his legs, how he could be such an incredible dual threat player, means that for a lot of teams, he is going to be above Levis unless you really loved him in interviews. And I'm sure a lot of teams did. So it's just a really good quarterback class at the top. I think there's reason to love all these guys, but I'm kind of rambling now. I think it's Anthony Richardson. If they're at number 4 and Anthony Richardson's on the table, I think they're taking Richardson. All due respect to Gardner Minshew, right? All due respect to Gardner Minshew, then bringing him in free agency.
Gardner could start the year.
And that's the thing, is that they've
got why
Nick
he chose
Foles,
them, right?
They got Gardner Minshew. Right. I mean,
the Shane Steichen effect. Gardner has a relationship with him. We saw what some of the things Steichen and that staff did with Jalen. Can they incorporate some of those things they did with Jalen, with Richardson? Yes. I mean, there's a lot here that all kind of connects the dots. I think you're on it.
I also like Sam Ebukam. I just want to say that. Shout out. He was the edge rusher from San Francisco who they brought over there.
Great
I like that signing. Didn't do a ton in free agency, but in terms
they
of the
never
additions,
do.
but I did like that one. I did like that one. We'll get to some of the losses that they had because we'll get to other teams and discuss that a little bit more. But like the Ebukam signing, but ultimately this isn't changing here. It's Anthony Richardson. It's kind of, I know it's a little chalk for a mock after free agency, but this is what it was always kind of going to be. So Richardson at number 4.
All right, so Seattle's on the clock here at 5. And Seattle finds themselves in a scenario where only one non-quarterback is gone. They have had a pretty active free agency that I've liked, to be quite honest with you. Not only re-signing Geno, but they gave Draymond Jones a big contract. They got Jaron Reed. So they really beefed up. This interior of the defensive line is looking better. They also brought Drew Lock back as a backup on a 1-year deal. We know Pete Carroll's been very vocal how he likes him. They're taking a flyer on Devin Bush. Julian Love on a 2-year, $12 million contract at safety is a great move, in my opinion. So they got depth on the back end. They got depth on the interior of the defensive line. So for me, I'm going to think that they lean Tyree Wilson here. I really am. I think that now, yes, they have a big stable of pass rushers all of a sudden, but I think they'll try to play Tyree at multiple alignments, even standing up at times. And they'll just use him as this giant freak edge rusher that can also put his hand in the dirt. And they just are big and athletic pretty much all across the defense at this point. Every single position has size, length, and athleticism. And that's how Seattle tries to always build their team.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, they brought the beef on the interior with the guys that they signed, bringing in Draymond Jones and Jaron Reed. And really you get Devin Bush in there. I guess I like the Devin Bush move.
It's probably... I didn't have the numbers exactly yet, but I would think it's almost like nothing.
Yeah, I see it's a 1-year deal, so I mean, it can't be much. And I know that Devin Bush obviously been disappointing since he got drafted 10 overall, but I agree with you. I'd like the Julian Love signing as well. That's a nice safety piece for them. They can still use a corner, but the area that they have kind of been screaming at in free agency that they're going to prioritize heavily in the draft is edge rusher, specifically edge rush talent. And we've talked for a long time that Tyree Wilson really feels like he is what the Seattle Seahawks gravitate towards. These just unique, big-bodied athlete players that you can use in a variety of different ways. So
that'll test off the charts. Like, that's just what they love.
Right. So Tyree Wilson at number 5. I think that's a solid call.
Godspeed at 6.
Yeah, Detroit Lions at 6, man. Things have changed for the Lions now. Okay. You re-sign Isaiah Buggs, you re-sign Alexander Zaloni, you re-sign John Kaminsky. Okay. You got some defensive guys that you're bringing back because you like. You then went out and really addressed your biggest area of need by getting Cam Sutton, 3-year deal, significant deal. So you think he's starting for sure. Emmanuel Mosley, 1-year deal, but that's just because he's coming off injury. Emmanuel Mosley's great.
Yep.
Then they bring in David Montgomery to mitigate losing Jamal Williams.
I think that's an upgrade.
Brad Holmes did a very nice job here.
I liked their free agency a lot.
Very nice job of what they were able to do in free agency. Truly going about the offseason the way that you're supposed to. Attack the needs heavily with what you can with the salary cap space that you've got, giving you that best player available approach. So what does Detroit need? Maybe a big-bodied wide receiver, but I don't think you're taking a wide receiver at 6, right? The only one that you'd probably take is Quentin Johnston, and I don't think you're doing that. I don't think a tight end is going to tempt you either. I don't think there's like a pseudo pick there that makes sense, although I do think that they could use a tight end. How much did they value it after trading TJ Hockenson? Who knows? I'm sure they would love for Levi Onwuzurike to come back and play really well for them as a versatile guy who could play as a 3 technique defensive tackle. But when you start dealing with really bad back injuries, that's tough. That's just it's tough to project a career being, well, I certainly hope that he comes back and is fully healthy, but who knows at this point with him. You maybe could use a safety, but I don't think you're taking Brian Branch here at 6. I want to take Jalen Carter, but I just don't feel like Carter goes that high right now.
It's okay. So this is where that conversation starts, right? I think.
Yeah.
It would probably start, of course, the last pick with Seattle, because Seattle can be like, hey, it's just too good.
That's true. Yeah.
But
I agree.
I will say again, if the draft was today, I don't know if he goes here. It's tricky. It's really, really tricky. Now, when all is said and done, can he rebuild his stock? Oh, man. And once again, honestly, Trevor, like, I love the Mosley deal. Sutton's there for a while now. They can still take a corner. They can still take a corner.
I think they're I think I'm leaning corner here because ultimately BPA, I have 3 players that are off the top of my head here. One of them's Jalen Carter. I already said it. The other one's Christian Gonzalez, just because I think that he's CB1. And the third one that pops out to me, who I just feel like the Lions are going to love, is Lucas Van Ness. I think they're going to love Lucas Van Ness. And I think the fact that Van Ness played on the interior for 2 years, they're just going to love it, man. They're going to think they could kick him inside some downs. They're going to think they could play him at edge rusher most of the time. I don't know. I don't know if this is just way too high for him, but this is a conversation that I wanted to have because I wanted to throw his name out here because I do think it makes sense.
Wow. Yeah. I don't think you're nuts. There's always the shock of the beginning of the draft. The Lions, it's almost like the draft starts at this pick in terms of the mystery. That's what's kind of, I love what they did so much at corner because now it's more mysterious to me. Like to me with the Lions, if they don't take a corner here, which they don't have to anymore, and they think a guy isn't going to make it to 18 that they're in love with, they were so aggressive last year for Jamison Williams. What's stopping them from going up from 18 and coming back up and getting a corner? This regime, I think, has really played things nicely, where they are one of those flexibility kings of the draft all of a sudden. They can walk out of here with 2 top-notch players. They also can take the swing for Jalen Carter. Do they do it? We don't know. They could take the swing.
They could also take Will Levis. I know Lions fans would lose it on me if I took Will Levis at 6, but I did talk to somebody earlier this week, and I was like, could they take quarterback at 6? It's
not egregious at all.
And they told me, and they're like, yeah, they could. They could. And it is somebody who knows the team well. I think I'm going to be boring. I think I am going to go Christian Gonzalez.
Okay. It's still good to talk through all those scenarios.
Yeah, there's a lot on the table, though, with them after this. There's a lot on the table. But I think they just spent so much money at corner.
They did.
I'm going to go Lucas Van Ness.
Whoa, okay.
I'm going to go Van Ness. I'm going to switch it up. We've done too many mock drafts.
I agree. It's time to be a little different.
We've done too many mock drafts where we've seen what the rest of the order becomes and when the Lions take a corner at 6. You guys you just heard me go back and forth in my mind about a lot of different options, but I really do think the Lions are going to love Lucas Van Ness. I really do think that. He's got a versatile D-line background. He tested incredibly well for a player of his size. You can use him in so many different ways along the defensive line. Is he a finished product? Should he be going number 6 overall? All that's kind of up for debate right now. But with the money that they spent at corner, you're at least starting Emmanuel Mosley on the outside if he's healthy enough to start week 1. You've got Jeff Okudah on the other side, and you're 100% starting Cam Sutton as well at some spot, whether it's nickel when you're in nickel formation or whether you're starting him on the outside as well because you gave him a decent chunk of change to be able to start on the outside. So because of that, I don't think they're forcing corner. And I think that they know that this cornerback class is really good, and they're going to have the option to pick one at 18 if they want one. So this might ruffle some feathers a little bit here, but I think because of where we have seen Lucas Van Ness projected from even other draft analysts that are also very well plugged in, I don't think it's out of the question. I think he is going. I think Detroit, like we started at the very beginning of this pick, gave themselves the freedom to pick the guy that they want. I think Van Ness could be that guy. So there we go. We spent a lot of time at number 6, but
it's because it's a pivot point. You have to.
Yeah.
It's worth it. All right. So 7 with the Raiders. I guess I bring us right back down to being boring. They're going to have the tough conversation. Do they take Jalen Carter? We'll see. I'm going to take Will Levis.
Okay.
And I don't care. Like everyone will be like, oh, Jimmy's there. Sure. Jimmy's hurt all the time. Jimmy's contract, when you really dive into the numbers, is not hamstringing them for the next 5 years. I mean, it's not. It's not. Even if they really wanted to.
No.
They can make him a post-June 1 cut after this year and still save some money. So, and honestly, for Levis, who did not have a great year at Kentucky with a lot of variables around him, staff changes, talent dropping off, sitting behind Jimmy to start the season is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So, or at least competing with Jimmy, whatever it may be. in an offense that I'm sure with Josh McDaniels isn't maybe the easiest thing to learn for a rookie all the time. I know Josh can dumb it down. We've seen him do that for someone like Mac Jones, and Mac played really clean football his first year. But I just think if the Raiders, I think, would embrace this scenario that they didn't have to go get him. He just fell into their lap. And now that they could develop him on their timeline.
That's the part that I agree with you for. I don't think the Raiders are going to trade up for Will Levis anymore.
I've gotten away from that. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense for them anymore.
But if he's there at 7, I think they take him.
Yeah.
Right. There's no big you still need to take that swing at the bat, even with Jimmy Garoppolo. So if he's there, I think that he's the pick. Atlanta Falcons, also like what the Atlanta Falcons have done in free agency. Shored up the offensive line, brought back a lot of their guys that are pivotal for them and what they do in the run game. Re-signed Caleb McGarry, re-signed Chris Lindstrom, brought in David Onyemata to play on the interior of the defensive line. Definitely needed that. Big swing in the secondary, getting Jesse Bates. Love that move as well. They traded for Jonnu Smith. Obviously, signed QB1 of the future, Taylor Heineke, who is undoubtedly going to start a game for them at some point.
Got decent money.
Well, and he's going to start a conversation because that's what Taylor Heineke always does. You ready for this one, Connor? I promise you guys, I'm not just doing this because I think it's hot takey. I really do. I'm looking at this objectively, and I think that it's going to be on the table for the Falcons.
Okay.
I'm taking Nolan Smith at 8.
You're not crazy at all.
I'm taking Nolan Smith at 8, man. The guy has tested unbelievably well. I think that he is going to be exactly the type of interview that every team wants. He is a ferocious run defender. His athleticism, his agility, his change of direction, his bend, all of it is there, man. And I actually did a feature interview with him, and I got to talk with him a couple of weeks ago. And, I asked him, like, okay, talk to me about defending the run versus going after the passer at Georgia, because he kind of joked around and he's like, man, something I'm looking forward to in the NFL is you see these edge rushers lining up in like these wide 7, wide 9 alignments to put themselves in these two-way win positions with offensive tackles because they're so far outside the line of scrimmage. And he was kind of like smiling. He's basically saying, without saying, can you imagine what an athlete like me is going to be able to do against a tackle like that? And I said to him, I was like, did you not have that chance at Georgia? He's like, no, man. He's like, if you were on the defensive line, he's like, you two gapped to Georgia. Like, that is what we did. He's like, our job was to keep the guys behind us completely clean. And when he said that, he also said, I will do that every single snap of every game if that's what I need to do for the team to win. And I'm like, man, this guy's got all the potential in the world. He's a ferocious run defender. He's got a great mentality, a great approach to the game. Connor, like we talked about during the combine, you know where he's from? State of Georgia. And Atlanta and Terry Fontenot said that, not that it means the most in scouting reports, but they do make sure they note when a prospect is from Georgia, went to the University of Georgia, was a team captain, is a multinational champion. I'm going Nolan Smith at number 8.
I like that this mock has all of a sudden turned into the like guy blinking meme. Like in actual raise different scenarios. That, like, for people that ever get angry at this show, we never take it personal because it's hey, throwback, Trevor. It's just football. Like,
oh man, there it is.
You like that? Shout out to Renner as well. I mean, it's good to talk about scenarios that you haven't with the draft, because every time we get to draft night, something happens that nobody talked about for a month. So, and I don't think that pick is off the walls at all. Nolan Smith is going early. They need help in the front 7 at edge and linebacker. The dude can play both. Honestly, he can play both. So 9 with Chicago. This is where things get particularly interesting, right? Because now the Jalen Carter conversation starts to, really kind of hit you like a strobe light, where you're like, how far can he really fall? Can he make it past Chicago? Now, I will say with Chicago, everything we've seen from Ryan Poles is slow and steady. Mm-hmm. It's not, let me just drive off the highway at some point out of my process. I don't know if Jalen Carter at 9 fits their process. And talent-wise, the guy's unbelievable. Once again, you need an infrastructure of a team, I think, with veterans that really can sign off on, hey, we know he's going through some issues. He's got some maturity questions, but we're going to dial it in here, and he's going to be a pro. I'm not ready to say Chicago feels like they're that destination as they slow build this thing. And there's nothing wrong with slow building this thing. They went out and spent money. They got Tremaine Edmonds. They got Nate Davis. They got DeMarcus Walker. They got Andrew Billings, Deontay Foreman. They traded for DJ Moore. They got TJ Edwards. So now they do have those veterans at linebacker, right? But I just think with Chicago now, they've just opened up the flexibility here. And I still think they're not done on the offensive line. And that's probably why they were comfortable moving back to 9 to sit there and go, okay, we still have some questions long-term, potentially about tackle. We got Nate Davis at guard. I think for me here, you're still looking at Peter Skoronski or Paris Johnson Jr. I do. And Skoronski, who played in their backyard, probably has the flexibility to play tackle and guard at a really, really high level. Paris Johnson, same thing. So I'm going to go actually with Paris Johnson here because I just think he fits that length profile that they would value taking an offensive lineman in the top 10. But Chicago at 9 becomes another fascinating spot because I wouldn't even rule out Jackson Smith and Jigba here. But they've done a lot of nice things at wide receiver. They traded for, if they didn't trade for Claypool, I would think wide receivers in play here. But you got DJ Moore, you got Darnell Mooney, you got Claypool, who you did invest in. There's not a lot of targets there for a rookie wide receiver. So stack the trenches, which is Poles' identity, obviously, being a lineman. We'll go Paris Johnson at 9.
All right, 10, Eagles.
This is probably where it happens. Because they can.
Because they have drafted really well to make this happen. I would agree. I think that this is probably where Jalen Carter comes off the board. You look at what Philly has done in free agency. Somehow brought both James Bradbury and Darius Slay back because that was a hilarious whirlwind, right? We were mocking corners to them at number 10 overall because it's just like, oh, they're going to lose James Bradbury. Of course, in free agency, they don't have the ability to that. Then they re-signed James Bradbury. Was like, oh, I guess corner's off the table. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, Darius Slay's not happy. What? Corner's back on the table.
We're back.
And then Darius Slay's back. So look, obviously they're good at outside corner. They could still pick one. I think the one's on the table. But if a talent like Jalen Carter drops to you, then I think that with him at number 10, that's where it makes the most sense.
It does. I mean, you look at them losing Hargrave. You look at them getting Fletcher Cox back. They have the infrastructure that I keep preaching that is good for Jalen Carter. And the Eagles pick again in the first round.
I know. That's the ultimate luxury.
They can miss. I know you don't want to, but they can.
Yeah. You're almost never in that position where you can. But
never.
You get to put Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis next to each other again. You brought back Fletcher Cox, so Fletcher Cox gets to be there, dude. This is the spot. This is where I'm doing it. I'm taking Jalen Carter at number 10.
All right, Tennessee on the clock at 11 here. Kind of had a funky top 10. We haven't had a scenario where Tennessee's ever been staring in the face of both Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
It feels like at some point, obviously Caleb Farley just feels like a miss. They're not terrible at corner even with that.
They're
not. This feels like, to me, a spot where somebody has to come up for one of those guys. If they don't,
okay,
I think you take Peter Skoronski. I know they paid Andre Dillard, and he's still going to play. The Titans have places on that offensive line for people to play right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they moved on from Ben Jones, who had a great career there. Nate Davis left. I still, in this spot, Trevor, would take Skoronski and say, hey, we'll play him at left guard.
Yeah.
And if Dillard stinks it up at some point, we'll see if he can play tackle, and I think he can. I just think, and it's just, this mock gets weird to me because Witherspoon and Gonzalez falling, it just hasn't happened yet, but you're just trying to embrace different scenarios. And I just think Tennessee, if they didn't move this pick, which I think is highly possible, you just keep building your trenches that have just been so tattered, really by age and injury. Like, the Titans didn't have a bad offensive line 2 to 3 years ago. They just got old and hurt, and it happens. And they lost some guys, and they missed in the draft. So
Yeah.
Skoronski here is a nice building block there.
I think it has to be. I don't think that Andre Dillard's like, oh, they signed Andre Dillard in free agency, like they're good at tackle.
No.
I don't think, Daniel Brunskill is kind of the same thing. Like this is, to me, this is just like new blood that's there. It's not necessarily, oh yeah, we fixed it, we're good now. And maybe they believe in those guys as starters. So maybe that deters them from an offensive tackle pick, but you really do just need someone as talented as Peter Skoronski or a Broderick Jones or something like that along the offensive line, because it's not good in Tennessee right now. So all right, you're going with Skoronski?
Yep.
Okay. Leaves the Texans up at number 12. So Texans, we talked about them a little bit in number 2, but it wasn't really going to be anything other than a quarterback at number 2. So some guys that they brought in around the rest of the roster. Brandon Cooks is out. Bring in Robert Woods. Okay, like it. Good veteran signing. Chase Winovich. Okay, nice little depth rotational edge piece. Hassan Ridgeway, interior defensive lineman on a 1-year deal. You brought in Jimmy Ward. They brought in Sheldon Rankins. Got Shaq Mason via trade with the Bucks. So like I do like a lot of what Houston was doing. Certainly need. I mean, they brought Noah Brown in as well. I should shout that out because shoot, Noah Brown could be a starter on this team. Offensive line. Now they got Titus Howard at right tackle. They got Shaq Mason at right guard. They got Kenyon Green at left guard, and then they they extended Laramie Tunsil. Now, so I don't think this is going to be an offensive line pick anymore.
It doesn't need to be in round 1. You can do that on day 2.
Yeah. This could certainly use an edge. They could certainly use an edge.
Yeah, they could.
Anybody I'm going to take here? I'm not taking Miles Murphy.
It just didn't really break right for that.
Maybe Will McDonald if they're that high on him. Although that's the top of where it starts. They got Des King. They got Derek Stingley, obviously. How long is Steven Nelson? What's Steven Nelson's contract?
It's got to be 1 year.
Let's see.
Knowing that New England regime that came in there, they look at corners, man. It doesn't matter that they already have Stingley.
So he's going to be 30 this year.
It's on an expiring.
And this is on an expiring deal. I might go Christian Gonzalez here.
I think that's the pick.
You go Christian Gonzalez one side, Derek Stingley Jr. on the other?
Length and speed.
Filthy.
That's the play.
I think this is the way to go.
There's
not really another position tempting you. You did a pretty good job. If there was a good edge rusher left,
yeah,
think about it. But we're going Christian Gonzalez here to the Texans.
That's what I would have done as well.
Well, then it's a smart pick.
It is. So how about this? Call me crazy here. Crazy. I mentioned it earlier. How about the Lions coming up to the Jets pick for Witherspoon?
Oh.
They got Van Ness at 6. They have done a really good job adding corners in free agency. But thinking long term, Mosley's coming off the injury. I still think corner long term is on their mind.
So they have...
What's the cost?
So they have 2 second-round picks and a third-round pick because they have Minnesota's second-round pick for the TJ Hawkins trade. So the Lions do have 48 and 55.
Are so the Jets... 50, yeah, what's the 5 spot move? Because you control 18.
Are the Jets going to be in a spot where they're making an Aaron Rodgers deal and want to recoup some Aaron Rodgers price?
That's what's on my mind right now. Let's say the Jets include their second rounder, which I believe is 43 in the Rodgers deal. And they got to get something back on day 2 right now.
So Green Bay's got pick 45. They have a bunch of stuff laid. I mean, I could, so 50. Is that too much though? I think that might be too much.
It might be. So the value is only 250 points.
Okay, so then what are we looking at? Like a 4th-round pick? 3rd-round pick?
3rd-round pick. Maybe. Let's see.
I mean, if
81
is what?
81 is 185 points. The problem is the Lions don't have a 4th-rounder. I feel like you would need to package The Lions third. We could say the Lions third and fifth. And that gets you close.
Would the Jets do that? You tell me.
It's tricky. Them not having a fourth is a problem here. Here's the question, Trevor. What about 2-3s? Because the Jets are going to probably lose a conditional pick in 2024's draft as well.
Okay, so they just give them 2/3 and they move up from 18 to 13 to take a corner above the Patriots, the Commanders, the Steelers, who all have corner needs.
Oh, they're all looking at corner. So like this is a jump that like really sets you up.
If that's what the Lions want.
If that's what the Lions want. And the Jets get a third rounder back for the next 2 drafts, which is like, I know fans and draft fans and us like really value third round picks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a wild price.
So I will let you for the sake of the mock draft, I'll let you do this if you want. I would say no. Like,
okay, then let's not do it.
That if I'm Detroit, I'm pretty okay with waiting. The board the way that it is. But I think that was a decent conversation that we just had.
I think so too.
So.
And sometimes that's what it comes down to.
It does. Lessons of the draft. So you're still up at 13 with the Jets.
So how about this?
Oh, he's throwing another one at us, folks.
There's more.
What about Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson on the same team? Don't have to face him.
What about the classic Baltimore Ravens coming up for a corner?
They would, I think.
100%.
They absolutely would do this because Baltimore.
Let's see their picks.
Baltimore hasn't done jack poop in free agency other than release Calais Campbell, which I did not see coming.
No.
I mean, they re-signed Trayvon Mullen. They re-signed Justice Hill. They re-signed Geno Stone.
They don't have a second rounder. They don't have a seventh rounder.
Oh, yeah, they don't.
This might be tricky.
No wonder why they want to get 2 first-round picks for Lamar.
Yeah, this might be tricky.
I don't know. 22 is a long way away.
Yeah, Jets might be. All right, so let's say the Jets are stuck and go with the old Broderick Jones at 13. Okay.
Wow,
which is a classic.
Wow, terrible.
We ended up right back where we always are. Full transparency, if I moved out of the pick, obviously Broderick was going to be gone. If I moved all the way to 22, I was going to consider taking John Michael Schmitz at 22 for the Jets because they have no center. No center. But they couldn't get out of the pick. And hey, that's the draft, by the way. For everybody that's like, hey, you got to move back.
You got to find a deal. Yeah, we got to do. You got to find
the Jets take Broderick Jones at 13, which is rock solid. We do that pick all the time.
Yeah.
But goes to show you the scenarios. And you are on the clock for New England, who probably would have taken Broderick Jones.
Yeah, without a doubt would have taken Broderick Jones. Yeah, no question about it. They re-signed Jonathan Jones. They signed Riley Reif, 1-year deal, $5 million. I mean, you're not moving the needle that much. Excuse me. Signed Mike Gesicki again, 1-year deal. It makes up for you trading away Jonnu Smith. Juju Smith-Schuster, 3 years, $11 million a year, $33 million in total. I don't know what the guarantees are in there, but to me that says we're not picking a wide receiver in the first round for a team that historically doesn't do that very often. Not a lot of big splashes here. I think they'd still love offensive line. Let's go Darnell Wright. I'm going to go Darnell Wright here.
Okay. They like those big tackles.
Former 5-star, just a mean mentality, extremely tested tape this past year, played very well there. So I'm going to say they kind of, I don't want to say like pigeonhole themselves in offensive line, but like the offensive line just got to be better for them. Yep. So I'll go Darnell Wright at 14 for the Patriots.
All right. Packers are on the clock right now.
Yeah. Your mortal enemies right now. This is good. This is good.
It's been really fun having 8 million. Now, I have not participated in much of them. Conversations about leverage and trade comp. I've seen everything from Jermaine Johnson and Elijah Moore in this trade.
Okay, you know what the worst part about this is? I do not want to get into this. I really don't. But the worst part about this is everyone saying, no. The Jets have all the leverage. No. The
Right?
Packers have
Which tells you the
all
answer.
the leverage.
Which gives you the answer.
Can we please just understand that the truth is in the gray?
Always.
It's not black and white. Truth is always in the gray. Now, like thinking about a lot of different scenarios, I do kind of feel like I do feel like the Packers have a little bit more of the leverage at this point in time. But it's not this. If it was one team has all the leverage in the world, the deal would be done. If it was the Packers side or the Jets side, it's just we need to stop this. I don't believe it that neither one of these teams has any leverage at all. Both of them have reasons to get this deal done. Both of them have reasons to try to stronghold the other. I do think the Packers have a little bit more leverage, but like, goodness gracious. If I see the word all the leverage again, I'm going to puke. Anyways, you're up with the Packers at 15.
Yippee. All right. So this could be a tight end pick. This could be an edge pass rusher pick. I mean,
it could be a tight end pick.
It could be. We did Darnell Washington before, and I'm kind of becoming fixated on that. I really am.
Man.
I'm doing it again. This isn't, as much as this is kind of the different scenarios mock draft, I'm landing back on this pick again. I really am.
You know I like it. I think that it fills a ton of different needs for him.
It's the pick right there. Because I don't even like an edge rusher for them in this spot. Like, are you going to take Miles Murphy here? Green Bay really doesn't care about outside perception, so sure they could.
Maybe.
I like Darnell Washington here. New big dog for them.
So the Washington Commanders now up at number 16. Pre-free agency, we had offensive tackle and corner is probably their biggest two needs. They sign Andrew Wiley, the right tackle from the Kansas City Chiefs, and so they're probably going to play him at right tackle. You're going to kick Sam Cosmi inside. You've got Charles Leno on left tackle, so they could still go offensive tackle. Charles Leno, he's not no spring chicken, so they could certainly go offensive tackle there. But if they believe maybe Cosmi can be still an offensive tackle, maybe they're not as in on that. They definitely need corner. Yep. They brought in Cody Barton. They signed Jacoby Brissett to a 1-year deal to compete with Sam Howell. Like those moves. Re-signed Deron Payne to a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, you got a big deal. Now their front is, established.
Signed Nick Gates as well to play offensive line for him. So I think they are going to be looking corner here. We're going Devon Witherspoon. Well, Joey Porter Jr. though. Yeah, we're going Joey Porter Jr. I think Joey Porter Jr. At this point in time, I think Joey Porter Jr. is the second corner off the board.
All right, I'm running in the card for Witherspoon to the Steelers. They've lost corners. He's too good. He's very brash. He's the perfect Steeler. I don't really think he makes it anywhere near here at the end of the day. But in this scenario, he did. The Steelers need a corner. They've made some really nice value signings on the offensive line, by the way. Shout out to the Steelers who got Nate Herbig on a really cost-effective deal. They got Isaac Semelu.
Yep.
I mean, Peterson's there as their vet corner. They re-signed Larry Ogunjobi.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers have had a nice free agency, quietly. So Witherspoon here is a BPA approach that just fits it perfectly.
If Darnell Washington was on the board, I genuinely would have thought about him here for the Lions at 18. I know that like how they handled TJ Hawkinson was kind of like, oh, they don't care about tight ends. Darnell Washington,
they care about blocking. A lot.
He's different enough. He's truly different enough, I think. So I've got 3 players that I'm contemplating here at number 18. Do you want to guess them, or do you just?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Everybody out there at home, you can guess as well. You can say it out loud in the car or at the office or wherever you're listening.
Wherever you want. Okay,
people just with their headphones on, walking in the street, just yelling out, "Brian Branch!"
Someone's like, Deontay Banks.
Ooh, no, but I could.
No, but yes.
Yeah, no, but yes, yeah.
Brian Branch.
Yes, Brian Branch is one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Man, that got tough fast.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't Deontay Banks.
Yeah.
Are you thinking Kincaid here?
Ooh, no. But again, could have. I would think about Kincaid here. I don't know if
all right, run away with it then. I gave 3 guesses. I got 1 of the 3.
I think Quentin Johnston as a big bodied wide receiver, because if you draft Quentin Johnson into this offense, then you have David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, you can figure out tight end, but then you have Quentin Johnson, you have Jameson Williams, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like Ben Johnson's coming back as the offensive coordinator. Like that is the man's cooking. We got a recipe and he's cooking.
With gasolina.
So I am really into that just because he is the unique wide receiver, I think, at the top of this draft class. So I'm thinking about Quentin Johnson, and then the other one is Kalijah Kancey. Even though they took defensive line at number 6, Lucas Van Ness, his home is going to be on the edge. So instead, you just get this defensive line that, man, there's a ton of talent there. You just got to figure out how to the best ways to use it. So for me, it's Brian Branch, it's Quentin Johnston, it's Kalijah Kancey. Brian Branch obviously makes sense because he's a secondary ad that isn't a corner. But I think I'm going to go Quentin Johnston. I think I talked myself into it. Dude,
offense.
I understand. Like this team already, you already had enough with the offensive coordinator there to be one of the top scoring offenses in the NFL. But you are trying to get even better. Like you are trying to make a strength even stronger. And so you get Jameson Williams back for a fully healthy season. You got Quentin Johnston in there as well to play the X. So a little bit of a different Lions mock draft. Lions fans, you guys have been very active in the comments all year long. Lucas Van Ness and Quentin Johnson, I want to hear your thoughts. Even if you say that it's terrible, I want to hear it because this mock, the board is falling differently to these teams. And the whole point of mock drafts isn't just to say the names that you guys want to hear. Like that's not the point of mock drafts is to run scenarios, right? Behind closed doors in NFL teams, they call mock drafts just simulations. When they say, "Oh, we ran a lot of different simulations," they're literally just making mock drafts, right? They've got a lot of different data and they've got intel and they're running different simulations. So this is kind of a different simulation for us. But I'm going to go Quentin Johnson at 18.
All right, so the Bucs are on the clock at 19.
Great.
Call me crazy, Trevor. I think they need to tackle pretty badly.
You damn right they do.
You think Wirfs is going to move over to the left side?
The thing is I don't know how much it really matters, right? I think guys a lot of times want to switch to the left side because it makes more money. Tristan Wirfs is going to be the highest paid offensive tackle in the NFL when he signs his deal, no matter what, whether he's a right tackle or a left tackle. So that part, I don't think it matters as much. I don't. I think if they like DeJuan Jones better, and I know
that's why I asked. I'm between DeJuan Jones and Anton Harrison.
If they like DeJuan Jones more than they like Anton Harrison, then Tristan Wirfs is going to flip. But if they, it truly all comes down to which offensive lineman they like better. I would go with Anton Harrison.
That's where I'm going to go as well.
Okay.
Take Harrison, play him on the left side, keep Wirfs on the right side. Bucs need a tackle at 19. I think this is the highest we've had Harrison. And I think
one of them.
I'm with you, Trevor, that I think people are just behind on him. Yeah. I know he has is he a perfect tackle? No, but when you're a really good tackle prospect, but as much upside that he has, that got so much stronger this year, he's going to go early.
Seahawks, we already kind of touched on it a little bit. I love what they did adding to the interior defensive line. We gave him Tyree Wilson, number 5 overall. I still think, let me pull up the depth chart real quick, just to make sure I remember exactly who they got here. Yeah, it could. Oh. Is this a John Michael Schmidt spot?
It feels like there's a chance.
Could be.
It really could be.
They got Jordan Brooks. Now they signed Devin Bush. They got Tariq Woolen.
Release Gabe Jackson.
Got Julian Love, who could play safety / nickel. Release Gabe Jackson. Oh, could this be an Osiris Torrance spot? It could be that as well, I think. We've gone Jackson Smith and Jigba a lot. I still think that makes sense.
Does. Makes a lot of sense. Would they just overcommit to the trenches, which there's nothing wrong with ever doing that. It's tricky.
Man.
But Trevor, do they go, you know what, we can get a center on day 2? What's the Seattle pick situation?
Yeah, but here's the thing. How much does Creed Humphrey's success go into this?
It's over and over again.
You know what I'm saying? Like how much does Creed Humphrey being as good as he is
They pick at 37 though, and 52.
Yeah, then they don't need.
Like I like Luke Whippler. I like Joe Tippmann. I like Steve Avila. I like Olu.
All right, Jack Smith-Njigba it is.
Sorry.
No, it's you're right. You're right. It's got to be. I think it's got to be Jack Smith-Njigba.
Dolphins forfeited their pick. Did have a nice offseason with what they were able to do.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they did a great job.
This one of the best rosters on paper, right?
Absolutely.
Like just no talent everywhere, man. You just got to put it together and you got to go out there and execute. I know they could use some offensive line help, a little bit of offensive line help still, but holy cow. That speed everywhere you could look on offense. That defense is
very fast
now,
on both sides of the ball.
Coached by Vic Fangio. I mean, it's going to be that Miami team's going to be a fun team to watch.
They're going to be good. They get the help at quarterback that they desperately need. They're scary.
Mm-hmm.
Pick 21 is the Chargers. I am going with Deonte Banks.
Oh, you son of a gun, dude. I already had him queued up.
Yeah, of course you did. Baltimore at 22. You think they don't know this? I offered the Jets pick to Baltimore. Oh no.
Don't bring this back on
me.
We
don't want that. We like staying here because we'll get who we want. Deonte Banks at 21 to the Chargers. And they're a team that, could take wide receiver, could take offensive line.
Yeah.
But Banks is just too good to pass up here at a spot they still need help.
Yeah.
Baltimore at 22. Boy, they could use a corner.
Suck.
Can I interest you in one Emmanuel Forbes? Just playing.
No. All right. So the Ravens, we already talked about it. Didn't really add anybody. No, didn't really add anybody. Didn't add anybody. Like, that's it.
Wow, they really are they. I think only two teams didn't sign an external free agent, right?
It was them and the Jags. Yeah.
Interesting.
And if you want to get technical with it, the Jags added Calvin Ridley. So
yeah, which is great. The Jacksonville's fine.
Yeah. Man, who would the Ravens pick in this scenario? God, what a nightmare. Ooh. This would be bad.
Miles Murphy?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm spitballing.
What?
Yeah,
Miles Murphy just going to play big end for you? Because
I know they have Matabuke.
Right. They also have Travis Jones, remember, who they drafted last year.
Who's just an absolute house of a nose tackle.
Right.
They have Michael Pierce.
Yep.
Is this a sneaky?
They drafted David Ojabo, though.
They did draft Ojabo, who would be
people
a rush
forget
backer
that.
for
By
them.
people, I mean me.
Literally us. Oh man,
God, they need a corner.
I think they still take corner here. I do. I know we're lower, but I think Forbes is in play here. I think Cam Smith is in play here. Maybe Keely Ringo's in play here.
Cam Smith I could live with.
You could live with it.
Julius Brents. No, he's not going 22.
Yeah,
he's not going 22.
That's a little early. Do they go wide receiver?
I was gonna say, would they dare?
Yeah, they need it, but it didn't work out for them. The two guys are gone. That makes sense for them. I don't know if Baltimore is going to draft a small wide receiver. I know everybody loves Zay Flowers, and I get it. Maybe.
They don't have a lot of picks, remember.
They don't have a second rounder, which is massive.
So where are they? Are they fully depleted at corner? They got Jalen Armour Davis, Darryl Worley.
They brought back, no. Yeah, no. I mean, is Baltimore quietly in a little bit of trouble? I always like Baltimore. I always like their team building. They're obviously in the Mars, one of the easiest players in the league to root for.
Yeah.
There's some problems with this roster.
Yeah.
Safety plays should be awesome.
Right.
It's a tough division.
Do they draft Brian Branch? Just play him at nickel? They have Demarion Williams.
They just traded Chuck Clark because they need to get Kyle Hamilton on the field, and then you draft Branch.
Yeah, no, you're right.
They gave away Chuck Clark, who's a good player. This is dicey here, huh?
Who? All right, I'm going Cam Smith.
Yeah. Cam will do well there.
As you can tell, I'm very happy about it. No, Cam's a good football player. Cam is a really good football player. We just do this mock draft scenario a lot. But I think look again, going back to what we said, the Ravens didn't do anything. They didn't do anything different.
They didn't do anything because they're waiting on the Lamar matching offer.
Yeah. All right.
The Vikings are on the clock. They've been really busy. They released Adam Thielen, longtime Viking. They released Eric Kendricks, longtime Viking. They released Cam Dantzler, gave up on him. Josh Alver got a good payday at tight end. Got Marcus Davenport on a one-year flyer for edge. Obviously, probably going to move on from Za'Darius Smith. Nick Mullins is their backup at quarterback. They brought back Garrett Bradbury. They brought back their long snapper. They brought back their kicker. They gave Byron Murphy a nice 2-year deal. Yep. They locked up Alexander Madison. They have been busy. A little more flexibility at this pick. I just wonder, man. They don't have to go corner now. They need front seven help, in my opinion. This is probably Miles Murphy.
Okay.
I mean, I know they got Davenport. I'm assuming they're releasing Za'Darius Smith.
Yeah.
They have Danielle Hunter there.
It's a 1-year deal for Davenport.
This is tricky. So then are you playing Miles Murphy as a hand in the dirt D end? This is pretty tough, man. Do you take is Kalijah Cansey big enough to play for them? I don't think so. Not in a front like this.
No,
I don't. This is hard.
Yeah, Minnesota again. Like these are teams that need corners.
They do need corners
that don't have. There's just not cornerbacks available.
As they move on from Thielen, they can go wide receiver.
They could go wide receiver. I don't hate that.
I'm kind of intrigued by Jordan Addison in this pick.
Ooh, nice. All right.
I'm going to go with Jordan Addison.
Okay.
I know the size and testing kind of has people going a little underwhelmed. He's just such a good polished player on film. And they lost one in that in Thielen. So they get one in that in Addison.
Jags, obviously, we said didn't do much in free agency. They haven't really brought in anybody. Franchise tag Devin Ingram, re-signed CJ Beathard. Well, I think I was told Mike Renner thought it was CJ beat hard for the longest time, which makes me laugh every time.
That's unreal. That's unreal.
If it's not true, Mike just got on a random
beat hard.
Re-signed Roy Robertson Harris. I like that move a lot. Re-signed Andrew Wingard. Release Shaq Griffin. Again, this is a corner spot. Would like to go corner here.
DeJuan Jones, maybe? Oh, what they like Walker Little. I always forget that.
That's
I
the
always
thing,
forget that.
They have Walker Little, who I think that they're just gonna
they'll just play him.
That right tackle spot.
Yep. Yeah, corner for sure.
I think I'm going Dalton Kincaid.
Okay, the old curveball. Even though they brought back Evan Ingram.
Yes, because Evan Ingram obviously franchise tag. You bring in Dalton Kincaid. You got a dual tight end system. You absolutely love it. If you love what you see from Kincaid, you can move on from Evan Ingram the next year. And they lost Chris Manhurst, and I don't know how much that goes into it, but lost him in free agency. So I'm going to go Kincaid. I'll go Kincaid here.
So the Giants are on the clock.
Unless, do I want to go Mayer?
Ooh, I clicked the pick, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can go Mayer if you want.
No. I'll go Kincaid. Just for everybody out there, I thought about it.
The Giants got Darren Waller for a third-round pick. They brought back Sterling Shepard. They brought in Paris Campbell. Yeah, surprising, busy, man. Trevor. They brought back Darius Slayton. I thought Slayton would kind of sprint to leave.
I just thought he'd get more money than what he got.
More money on a bad wide receiver market, more opportunity somewhere else. I mean, this passing offense last year didn't really love to try to throw the ball down the field too much, and that's really his game. Either way, good for the Giants.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
good for the Giants. They are, at a minimum, improved. They get Barkley back. They get Daniel Jones back.
This team to me has a very high floor. I think the New York Giants. I think the New York Giants have a very solid roster. They still need to get impact, major difference-making players, but I think this is a very solid team.
So I know they're in on corner, but we watched the corners kind of evaporate before their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They did lose Nick Gates, that's a big loss for that team. So this offensive line is still needing help. I know we say it every year, but man, I kind of want to take John Michael Schmitz here.
Do you think he's anything other than a center?
Yeah, I think he can play guard.
You think?
Yeah, he's just that talented. He reminds me of Frank Ragnow in that respect.
Oh, okay.
Like big
All right.
center that can move.
All
If
right.
you're a big center that can move, you can play guard. The problem why most centers can't play guard is because they're just too small. But
Right.
that's not a problem for John Michael Schmitz. I know they care a lot about D line. Like, are they willing to take a risk on Cansey's size? I kind of want to go Cansey here.
He just doesn't fit.
I know.
They're 3-4.
Because of Wink's system.
Yeah, where's he gonna play? He
I
can't
know.
play anywhere.
No, I know. It's disappointing because I just want to watch Cansey play with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, but
no, you're right. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit where Wink. This is what
fit.
sucks about Cansey because I think Cansey's a top 20 player in the draft. And you go through every team and you're like, oh, well, he can't fit there. And it's like, well, but you're right. You're right. It brings me back to where I wanted to go. Well, no, where I was looking. John Michael Schmitz ends up being the pick here for the Giants. Joe Schoen has made it very clear how much he prioritizes keeping this offensive line stout in front of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Big, too. He's 6'4", 2. What is he?
Bro, he's a mammoth center.
He's huge.
He's a massive center, and he plays big.
All right.
And by the way, for anyone that thinks this is a reach, I have John Michael, I think, as my 24th or 25th overall player in the draft. So this is great. This is value is completely adequate with me. And I think people will start to bump him up.
Dallas Cowboys. Man.
Great trade. Two great trades for Dallas.
Great trades for
Something
Dallas,
that
man.
They needed to do more of, and they did it. Good for Dallas.
Dallas had a fantastic offseason. Shed Zeke's contract, traded for Stephon Gilmore, traded for Brandon Cooks.
Keep Tony Pollard at all costs.
I mean, they literally are keeping him at all costs because they signed him to a 1-year franchise tag, so they're paying him $10 million this year. But he's coming off injury.
Worth it. He's worth it to me. 1-year running back contracts are like relievers in baseball. If you miss, who cares?
I was going to say, I don't know what that means. You're going to have to
basically, there's no bad deal, is how the saying. Like, no 1-year deal in baseball, especially for relievers, is a bad deal. I look at that with running backs in the NFL.
Do I go Kalijah Cansey here?
Well, the Cowboys now have like kind of a fun pick, right? Because they solved two really big needs that we draft here all the time.
Correct.
Did they take Bijan?
Yeah, I mean, like, Bijan's the obvious pick, right? Them taking Bijan is the obvious choice.
They shouldn't.
But they don't have to. It's a good running back class. They picked 58 in the second round. They could target Jahmyr Gibbs if they want to.
This should be the Cansey pick. Although, once again...
Who plays nickel for them?
Once again, he might not fit that front. I keep running into this problem. They have Sam Williams is going to get a lot of burn on that front.
Oh, dude, Dan Quinn would love Brian Branch.
Yeah, he would. But the problem is whenever we do this with the Cowboys for years, everybody's like, they're never taking a safety.
Yeah, but he's nickel
and they
corner.
Don't.
Nickel corner.
He is a nickel.
He's okay. Jordan Lewis, 20 years old. He's on the last year of his deal.
Brian Branch, come on down.
He could. I'm thinking about it. Brian Branch or Bijan Robinson? Who do you think they'd take?
Oh, who's making the pick? Jerry or Will McClay?
They're picking Bijan. What the absolute hell am I doing?
Yeah, they are.
They're just taking Bijan Robinson. All right, you're up. I tried, people. I tried.
You will not win against Jerry Jones. The Bills are on the clock. I actually find this pick to be very easy in a relieving sense. This should be DeJuan Jones in this spot. Get the big hulking right tackle. I mean, Bean was down on the field of the Senior Bowl just staring at him and Darnell Wright that week. Not saying that means anything, but they're pretty vocal that they need to improve the offensive line. They need to get bigger and tougher on their offensive line. We said on the show, we just think Spencer Brown's not the guy for Josh Allen on the right side. So DeJuan Jones at 27 to the Bills.
Okay. All right. Cincinnati Bengals up. Dude, Cincinnati Bengals offseason. Great.
Pretty dang good.
Re-signed Jermaine Pratt. Great. Sign Orlando Brown. Loved it. I'm looking at their needs right now. Tight end certainly is up there.
They lost both safeties, but they have Dax Hill in waiting.
But they have Dax Hill, right? So what do you what do they think of Dax Hill essentially? Like, do they think he's just a strong safety?
Oh, Dax, with his athleticism, he's got to play free when they need him to.
I feel like he could play both.
Why I was so high on him, I thought he could play any position in the defensive backfield.
I agree.
Are you trying to take Branch here?
Yeah, but I can't. I don't think I can because
I don't think you can either. I think they're so good at corner.
They have Hilton. I'm trying to get Branch off the board.
I know we've kind of let it run. I just think it's Michael Mayer for them. I really do.
Probably.
And I think that's an amazing pick, by the way.
Yeah, but Bengals fans aren't going to retweet the show now.
We fought a fight with the Bengals fans last year, I think, over some of our mock picks, and I think we've come to terms. We're on good terms with them now.
No, we're cool. We're cool. No, I love Bengals fans. Obviously, with me living in Cincinnati,
hell yeah,
I've had the chance to meet a lot of really great Bengals fans.
I'm just happy for their happiness.
I do think this
is Joe Burrow now.
I do think this is Michael Mayer.
I think so too.
Yeah. All right, Mayer
Saints. Bijan's gone, and they signed Jamal Williams anyway for Kamara.
Oh, you know who this is? Take Kancey.
You think this is the Kancey spot?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
You need interior defensive line because they lost David Onyemata. They lost Shai Tuttle.
They did. They lost Davenport.
They brought in
edge rushers.
They brought in Kalen Saunders and Nathan Shepard, but like those are like beef guys.
Yeah, you know? Shepard's Mr. Beef. Yeah, I would agree with you here. I think they have the luxury of being able to take Kancey and playing him in their defense. Kancey goes to the Saints 29, which doesn't suck for the Eagles because they got Jalen Carter at 10.
Oh, wait. Oh, brother, is Brian Branch.
Yeah.
It's the easiest pick of the draft.
Some Eagles fans were like, hey, we really like Avonte Maddox.
No. Listen, look.
Trevor's not having it.
I also like Avonte Maddox. We're also talking about Brian Branch, who...
Yeah. It's like twice the size of him.
They lost CJ Gardner-Johnson as well. Right? He signed somewhere, didn't he?
He didn't sign somewhere, which is wild because I think he's one of the best players in free agency.
Interesting. Okay, well...
But they paid Maddox, dude. They paid him well. Eagles fans are right about this. I
like Avonte Maddox. I just want that to be very clear.
Do you know his cap hit this year or next year? I mean, in 2024 is over $10 million. $10 million. And not really cuttable with 3 void years. They really like Avonte Maddox. They really hate Trevor taking Brian Branch for them, which is funny. Don't they need an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I mean, they could go with Osiris Torrance probably.
Or Avila. Yeah, you're right. Both of them.
Or Steve Avila.
Man, Torrance would be something there, wouldn't he?
Yeah, because I mean, like they lost Sumalo, right? That's how you say his last name?
I say Somelu. But
Somelu?
I'm probably an idiot.
No, I mean, like whatever it is, they lost him and he was a starting offensive lineman. I know a lot of people are just penciling in Cam Jurgens there.
They drafted him to be Kelsey's replacement. Like, I know that for a fact.
I was going to say, like, Cam is kind of small. So, like, he's
not a guard. He's not.
I don't think he's a guard. We're going Osiris Torrance. We're doing it.
Seyu Malo is how Pro Football Reference has it.
Okay. All right. Well,
Torrance, I like that pick.
The Eagles bringing the beef.
And that's what they do. They get up in the quarterback sneak formation and they push the pile forward 4 yards, and you can't stop it because you're too soft. That's what they tell you. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I love the Kelsey clip, the audio clip. Did you see it? It was like on TikTok. It was going around the season where Kelsey's lining up to snap the ball for a QB sneak, and he's literally just saying out loud. He's saying to the other team, he's like, "You know it's coming. You know what's coming. You know what we're about to do." And then they do it. And there's just nothing the other team
can do. I mean, of course they know it's coming.
All right.
The Chiefs at 31. So this, Trevor, I can't believe we're having Brian Branch fall to the second round, but we are.
No.
Yeah. You like him in this spot for them?
I don't know. I just like Brian Branch a lot.
I kind of like Will McDonald at this pick.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
They released Frank Clark. They need the speed. It does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Will McDonald here. Get a speed rusher for the Chiefs. And that's our mock.
And there it is. The last mock we'll ever do.
This is a weird one. Yeah, this is probably the last mock draft we're ever going to do.
You guys know that's not true. All right, we're recapping it. Connor at the very top.
Yep.
He went Bryce Young from Alabama to the Carolina Panthers. A little bit of status quo with Bryce being number 1 back on that top spot. CJ Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State, going number 2 to the Houston Texans. Will Anderson, edge rusher, going number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals, who did not trade down. Anthony Richardson, quarterback, going to the Colts at 4. Tyree Wilson, edge rusher, going to the Seahawks at 5. Lucas Van Ness started the craziness here. The edge rusher from Iowa, going number 6 to the Detroit Lions. Will Levis going to the Raiders at 7. Nolan Smith to the Falcons at 8. Paris Johnson Jr. to the Bears at 9. Jalen Carter, the slide stops with Philadelphia Eagles at number 10. Peter Skoronski to the Titans at 11. Christian Gonzalez to the Texans, number 12. Christian Gonzalez and Derek Stingley Jr. You love to see it. Broderick Jones, we talked long and hard about the Jets moving from this spot, but they end up picking Broderick Jones at number 13. Darnell Wright, tackle from Tennessee, going 14 to the Patriots. Darnell Washington, back-to-back Darnells. Didn't even realize that. Going number 15 to the Green Bay Packers. Joey Porter Jr., the corner from Penn State, going 16 to the Washington Commanders. Devon Witherspoon right after that. Corner from Illinois, going to the Steelers at 17. Quentin Johnston, wide receiver, going to the Lions at 18. Anton Harrison to play left tackle for the Buccaneers at 19. Jack Smith and Jigba to the Seahawks at 20. Deontay Banks charged at 21. Cam Smith to the Ravens at 22. Jordan Addison, Vikings at 23. Dalton Kincaid to the Jaguars at 24. John Michael Schmidt's getting in the first round.
Yeah, welcome to the first round.
Giants. I think it's a good spot for him. The Giants at number 25. Bijan Robinson going to the Cowboys because it's destiny. It's written in the stars. At number 26, DeJuan Jones, the right tackle from Ohio State, going to the Bills at 27. Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame, going 28 to the Bengals. Kalijah Cansey going 29 to the Saints. Osiris Torrance going to the Eagles at 30. And then Will McDonald, 31 to the Kansas City Chiefs. Let us know what you guys thought of the draft. A little different, but we thought that was going to be the case with a post-free agency mock draft. We're obviously going to have a lot of more dominoes fall. There's going to be different players they're going to sign for different teams. I think are going to round out some other needs. So like Connor said, we're going to get into a 2-round, potentially even 3-round mock draft coming up soon for you guys. But we wanted to make sure that we gave you a revised first-round mock draft with the new team needs that we have after the early parts of free agency. So if you're watching this bad boy on YouTube, please comment. Let us know what you think of the mock draft, what you think of the show. Subscribe and like the video. If you're here, we would really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio only and you want to give us some feedback, at Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers on Twitter and Instagram. And if you guys do have a YouTube account and wouldn't mind coming over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@NFL Stock Exchange, we would really appreciate the subscribership because we love y'all. We're trying to form an NFL draft community here. It's not just us doing mock drafts, talking about these things with you guys. We want to hear from you too. So many of you guys are sending us your mock drafts and your team-centric drafts. And I got to tell you, that's what makes this time of year so much fun for both of us, is really getting to hear from you guys and get in on that conversation. So Connor, my friend, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I really enjoyed this one because I think people look back at it and some of the comments, of course, that, maybe are new to our show or are like, oh, this is way off. But I think some people that watch every mock draft we do are like, it was nice to have long-winded conversations about scenarios that can come up and actually see what they look like on paper than doing the same thing over and over and over again. So I really enjoyed this mock draft, and I'm excited to see where our future maybe 3-rounder goes.
We're obviously going to have more content for you guys coming up later this week, but I really do think that this is the time of year when stuff starts to really change. A lot of new conversations start happening, and you start to hear about a lot of these players who are going a lot higher in the draft than you originally thought. So stick around with us. We'll be covering it all as best we possibly can. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Connor Rogers. Thank you guys so much for watching the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We'll see you guys next time.